Hello, hello. Let's talk about feelings and fires, weather, things like that. So I have, excuse me while I get my selfie stick positioned. I have this thing where I love seeing how things on the inside, how we feel, and things on the outside, like just what's going on in the environment, things like that outside of us, how they mirror each other, and how I'll find that something about the way I am, or the way people are, gets reflected in just the outside world. And in this case, what I wanted to talk about was how we have a kind of a no feeling policy in this culture. Don't, especially anything intense. Intense feelings are something to be shut down and avoided, and it's like taboo, right? And well, my sister is getting involved in a local volunteer fire department, a little fire department where we grew up. And so we were talking about some of the things that they are dealing with as a department, and how the United States has had this sort of like a zero tolerance policy towards fire, where any sort of fire, wildfire type of fire, is deemed bad, and we do all this work to try and prevent any fire from happening. But now the department is kind of exploring this idea of actually prescribing burns in the area as a way of promoting a healthy forest and preventing larger uncontrolled fires. And we were talking about it, and I was kind of struck by how well it mirrors how we deal with emotions, how we interface with our emotions, and how if we're using that wildfire analogy, we don't want this big out of control fire. We think it'll destroy us, and so we do everything we can to snuff it out, to tamp it down, and to avoid it. But in the meantime, all of the underbrush is growing and growing and growing, and so we're increasing the fuel. The amount of fuel available is going up, and so we're playing this game where we're trying to prevent a fire, but we're effectively throwing more wood out there that's just waiting to burn. And when it does burn, it's really out of control, and it fucks things up in a big way, right? And it seems really close to how we're dealing with emotions. And I love that, how we're socking away all of our emotional fuel. We're just like letting it pile up to where any old little spark, and we've got this massive fire that then is destructive. Whereas if we let these little fires happen, then it never really builds up that much, and it's a part of a natural, healthy ecosystem. It's part of a cycle. It's part of the circle of life, or something like that, right? And so my sister and her department are starting to experiment with small prescribed burns. And I think that's a magnificent way to describe what I've been doing lately with my, emotional exploration. I gotta figure out how to switch hands between mug and selfie stick, so hold on a second. So I've been doing all of this, just exploring and experimenting with, movement and emotions, and getting all of this benefit, and also being just amazed and scared and weird and out, and just like, it's been a lot of new stuff for me lately. But I love the idea of thinking about this work that I'm doing as prescribed burns, where I create a safe context for myself to feel some feelings. It's safe. There's a boundary, there's a container, there's an intention. It's appropriate and, contextually scaled. It fits, and I can do it and see what happens. It's an experiment, and basically every time I do it, it's good. It's net positive. It's not out of control. It's not crazy. It's not destructive to anybody or anything, except maybe some pillows. It's a prescribed burn, and it feels like I'm creating a healthy practice for my body and my emotions that is, on one hand, or in some ways, it's kind of, it's good maintenance, right? It's just help clear out the fuel that is accumulated throughout the week. And also, if you're doing a little extra credit, you can be clearing out fuel that accumulated over the decades. And so, continuing with that, wildfire and fuel analogy, if you're absolutely packed with underbrush and it's all dry and it's hot out, it's just like life here. If I have a lot of unfelt feelings and I'm just about to spill over, right? And then the environment is, say, hot, like the wildfire. There's a lot of stuff coming at me that is stressful. Well, then I'm gonna explode. I'm just gonna into a big uncontrolled fire that hurts people, that is destructive. And as a parent, that's a real problem, where people that I love, that are closest to me, will be hurt, right? And so I don't want to be that. I don't want to be, one little spark away from losing my shit and, screaming at somebody or something like that. I'm around kids all day. Like that, I don't want them to be the victim of my my whatever you would call being at capacity, like without any buffer at all. I don't want the people that I love the most to be the victim of that. And so doing these prescribed burns, to me, seems really wise. It's bringing myself away from the brink so that I've got buffer, so that when conditions heat up, when there are sparks flying around me, I'm not just bursting into flames. I love analogies, and I love the inside and outside thing, where it's we are the environment. We were made in this environment, and our nature is this nature. It's outside, inside is outside is inside. So, how are you in relationship with this forest of yours? Are you letting little fires happen in safe ways that keep the system running? Because in a real forest, the fires have value. They do things that are necessary for the system to work at its best. Whether it's making certain seeds germinate, or clearing out just too much underbrush for there's a I don't actually know how much I don't know all the ways that forest fires help forests, but they do when they're not too big, when they happen somewhat regularly, when they don't let them go for too long, then it's a good thing. And I think it's exactly the same thing with emotions. Yelling and screaming and crying and hitting things and all of that is a normal, natural, healthy part of the human forest, the human ecosystem. Because, I'm a walking ecosystem. It's a whole incredibly complex, interdependent system. And those emotions, that expression of those emotions, is a part of that system. It's like the weather, sometimes it's fucking stormy, and sometimes it's nice and blue and calm. But if you stopped it, if you changed the weather so it was always calm and blue, you would actually be hurting the system. Like, we need rain, it's just a part of how it works. And so not fighting that and finding ways to let the weather pass through, let a fire pass through, that's just a part of having a healthy system. So yeah, how are you managing your forest? In what ways are you resisting? Do you have a no fire policy? Are you creating the opportunity for controlled burns? Do you let that happen? Do you give yourself a safe context to let a little bit of fire go for a bit, clear out some of the underbrush, and then reap the benefit of that and feel good for a while? There's your thought for the day. And maybe it'll tickle you the way it tickled me. I love it. Okay. I'll see you later. Bye.